The message came on a cold morning in November. It broke through every radio, every television, every phone on Earth at the same time. For exactly 30 seconds, the world stopped. People froze in the streets. Cars pulled over. Children looked up from their games. And then the voice spoke. It was not a human voice. It was something older, something stranger. The words were translated into every language on Earth, but the meaning was the same everywhere. Species of Earth, you have been observed. You have been measured. The Galactic Council now summons you to the Citadel of Accord. You will send representatives. You will present your case. Your future will be decided. Then the signal ended, and the world erupted into chaos. Daniel Hayes was eating breakfast when the message came. He was 52 years old, a career diplomat who had spent 30 years talking to difficult people in difficult places. He had negotiated peace treaties in war zones. He had talked down terrorists. He had sat across the table from dictators and kept his voice calm. But nothing had prepared him for this. His phone rang before he could finish his coffee. It was the president. "Daniel," she said, her voice tight. "I need you in Washington, now." He was on a plane within the hour. The United Nations building was a madhouse when he arrived. World leaders shouted at each other in a dozen languages. Scientists argued about the nature of the signal. Military commanders demanded action. Religious leaders called it a sign from God, or the devil, or something else entirely. Daniel stood at the back of the room and watched. He had learned long ago that the loudest voices were rarely the wisest. He waited until the shouting died down. Then he walked to the front of the room. "We have 3 choices," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. "We can ignore the message and hope they go away. We can send the signal back and ask for more information. Or we can do what they asked and send a delegation. How do we know this is real?" Someone shouted. "We don't," Daniel admitted. "But if it is real and we ignore it, what happens then? If someone is watching us from out there, if they have the power to send a message to every device on Earth at once, then they have power we cannot imagine. We cannot hide from them. We cannot fight them. Our only option is to talk to them." The room fell silent. "I'll go," Daniel said. "I'll lead the delegation. Give me the best people we have. Scientists, soldiers, translators. Give me 3 months to prepare, and I'll go talk to whoever is out there." The president looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. The next 3 months were the busiest of Daniel's life. He assembled his team carefully. Dr. Samantha Clark was his first choice. She was a linguist, a woman who spoke 12 human languages and had spent her career studying how beings communicate. If anyone could learn to talk to aliens, it was her. Admiral Christopher Grant came next. He was a Navy man, tough and practical, the kind of person who planned for the worst and hoped for the best. They would need someone like him if things went wrong. The team grew to 50 people. Scientists who understood physics and biology. Historians who could explain human culture. Artists who could show what humanity had created. Doctors, engineers, teachers. Each one was chosen because they represented something good about the human race. The ship was another challenge. Earth had only a handful of vessels capable of traveling beyond the moon. The best of them was the Endeavour, a research vessel that had been designed for a mission to Mars. It was not pretty. It was not fast. But it was tough, and it worked. Engineers worked around the clock to prepare it. They installed better communication systems. They added more supplies. They built quarters for 50 people to live in for months at a time. When they were finished, the Endeavour looked like a metal box covered in antennas and solar panels. It was ugly, but it was theirs. The night before departure, Daniel stood on the observation deck and looked up at the stars. He had never felt so small in his life. Somewhere out there, beyond the darkness, something was waiting for them. Something that had watched humanity crawl out of caves and build cities and split the atom and reach for the moon. Something that had decided, for reasons of its own, that now was the time to make contact. What did they want? Were they friendly? Were they hostile? Did they see humans as equals or as insects? Daniel did not know. But he was going to find out. Samantha found him there an hour later. Having second thoughts? She asked. Daniel shook his head. No, just thinking about what we might find out there. Does it scare you? He considered the question carefully. Yes, he admitted. But fear is useful. It keeps you sharp. It reminds you that some things matter. Samantha nodded. The crew's ready. The ship is ready. The world is watching. Then I suppose we should not keep them waiting. The launch was broadcast to every nation on Earth. 8 billion people watched as the Endeavour lifted off, its engines burning bright against the morning sky. For a few minutes, the world forgot its differences. Rich and poor, young and old, enemies and friends. They all looked up and watched as 50 humans rose into the darkness on behalf of their entire species. Inside the ship, Daniel felt the weight of acceleration pressing him into his seat. Through the window, he watched Earth shrink. The continents became shapes on a map. The oceans became blue smudges. The clouds became thin white lines. And then the whole planet became a ball, and then a marble, and then a dot. He had seen photographs of Earth from space before. Everyone had. But seeing it with his own eyes was different. It was so small, so fragile, so alone in the endless black. He thought about everyone down there. His daughter, who had cried when he left. His ex-wife, who had wished him luck. His friends. His colleagues. 8 billion strangers who were counting on him to speak for them. He would not let them down. The journey took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of floating in the dark, watching the stars drift past the windows. 3 weeks of preparation and planning and practice. 3 weeks of learning everything they could about what might be waiting for them. And then, on the 21st day, they arrived. The citadel of Accord hung in space like a dream made solid. It was enormous, larger than any city on Earth, a spiral of towers and platforms and lights that glowed against the darkness. Ships moved around it like fish around a reef, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Shapes that no human had ever imagined. Daniel stood at the window and stared. My God, Samantha whispered beside him. No, Daniel said quietly. Not God, something else. Something older, maybe. Something stranger. He took a deep breath. Let's go introduce ourselves. The docking process took 4 hours. The Endeavour was guided through a maze of traffic lanes and security checkpoints by automated signals that the human computers could barely understand. Twice, warning lights flashed on the control panel. Twice, Admiral Grant had to override the navigation system to keep the ship from crashing into something. When they finally came to rest in a docking bay, Daniel let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. The bay was vast, large enough to hold 100 ships like theirs. Most of the other vessels made the Endeavour look like a toy. There were ships that seemed to be made of living flesh, their hulls pulsing with a slow rhythm like a heartbeat. There were ships built from crystal that caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. There were ships that looked like weapons, all sharp angles and dark metal. And there was the Endeavour, a steel box with antennas, sitting among them like a child's drawing among masterpieces. Wow, Samantha said, looking through the window. At least we made it. Do not get comfortable, Admiral Grant replied. Making it here was the easy part. A signal came through the communication system. A voice, translated into English, but clearly not human, instructed them to prepare for inspection and escort. 10 minutes later, the airlock opened, And they got their first look at an alien species. The Volanti were tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin like polished silver and eyes that had no pupils. They moved with a grace that made humans look clumsy. Their robes were simple but elegant, marked with symbols that Samantha recognized as some kind of rank or office. They did not smile. They did not offer greetings. They simply stood in the doorway and waited. "I am Corvith," the tallest one said. "I am assigned to manage your delegation during your time at the Citadel. You will follow my instructions. You will not deviate from approved areas. You will not speak to other species without permission. You will not cause disruptions. Is this understood?" Daniel stepped forward. "I am Daniel Hayes, Ambassador for Earth. We appreciate your hospitality and look forward to productive discussions." Corvith looked at him with those pupil-less eyes. "This is not hospitality, Ambassador. This is procedure. Come." They were led through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were made of something that looked like stone but felt warm to the touch. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadow. Other beings passed them, creatures of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs. Some walked on 4. Some floated. Some crawled. None of them paid the humans any attention. "How many species are in the council?" Samantha asked Corvith. 47 at present. 17 have full voting rights. 30 have observer status or provisional membership. You are applying for provisional membership. And what does that mean? Exactly. It means you will be evaluated. Your technology, your culture, your military capability, your economic potential. Based on these evaluations, the Council will determine your classification. And what are the possible classifications? Corvith paused for just a moment. You could be granted provisional membership with limited rights and responsibilities. You could be assigned as a protectorate under the administration of a senior species. Or you could be designated as a resource zone to be managed for the benefit of the Council. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Resource zone. You mean our planet. Our people. Your system, Corvith corrected. Everything within your stellar boundary. Minerals, energy, biological material, labor. Labor, Admiral Grant repeated, his voice hard. You mean slavery. Corvith turned to look at him. I mean efficient allocation of resources. The Council does not use emotional language, Admiral. It uses practical language. If your species cannot contribute to the Council as members, you will contribute in other ways. This is simply how the galaxy works. They walked in silence after that thought. The diplomatic quarters were located in a section of the Citadel that felt older and more neglected than the rest. The rooms were small. The furniture was basic. The windows looked out on a wall rather than the stars. This is where they put species they do not respect, Samantha said. Examining the space. Then we will have to earn their respect, Daniel replied. That night, the delegation gathered in the largest room to discuss their situation. The mood was grim. They had come hoping for friendship or at least fair treatment. What they had found was something closer to an auction house, where their entire species was about to be valued and sold. Admiral Grant laid out what they knew. The Council is dominated by 3 major powers. The Volanti control the bureaucracy. They are the ones who run things, who keep records, who enforce rules. They think they are above everyone else because they have been doing this for longer than anyone can remember. He pulled up an image on his tablet. The Creth Dominion is the military power. They are warriors, conquerors. They believe that strength is the only thing that matters. They have the largest fleet and the most weapons. Most of the other species are afraid of them. Another image appeared. The Morvani Collective controls trade and resources. They see everything in terms of profit and loss. To them, Earth is not a civilization. It is an asset to be acquired. And the other species? Daniel asked. Most of them just do what they are told. They vote the way the big three want them to vote. They have learned that challenging the system leads to bad outcomes. Samantha had been studying the linguistic data. There is something else. The way they talk about us, the words they use, it is not just dismissive. It is systematic. They have categories for species like us. Young species. Primitive species. They've seen this before, many times. And they have a process for dealing with it. A process, Daniel said. Yes, we petition for membership. They evaluate us. They find us lacking. They offer us terms that are not really offers at all. And when we accept, because we have no choice, they absorb us. Our resources, our labor, our future, all of it feeds into the council. The room was quiet. Then we changed the process, Daniel said finally. How? Someone asked. I do not know yet, but we have 3 days before the assembly. 3 days to find a way to make them see us differently. He looked around the room at the faces of his team. They were tired. They were scared. But they were still here. We did not come all this way to be somebody's resource zone. We came here to speak for humanity. And when we stand before that council, we are going to say something they have never heard before. Admiral Grant nodded slowly. What do you have in mind? Daniel smiled. It was not a happy smile. I have an idea. But it is going to require some preparation. And it is going to require all of you to trust me. We trust you, Samantha said. Tell us what you need. Daniel started talking. And as he talked, the mood in the room began to change. Fear gave way to determination. Despair gave way to hope. These were humans, after all. They had faced extinction before. They had faced ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters. And they were still here. The council had never seen a species like humanity. They were about to... The Grand Assembly Chamber was the largest room Daniel had ever seen. It rose in tiers like an ancient amphitheater, but on a scale that made every human structure look like a toy. Thousands of seats filled with beings from across the galaxy. Colors and shapes and sizes that no human artist had ever imagined. The air hummed with 100 different languages, all being translated simultaneously by devices built into the walls. At the center of it all was a small platform. The petitioner's podium. It sat at the lowest point of the chamber, so that anyone standing there had to look up at everyone else. The message was clear. You are small. You are beneath us. Know your place. Daniel walked to the podium with his head held. High Arbiter Thiessen presided over the assembly from the highest tier. He was ancient even by Volanthi standards. His silver skin faded to gray, his movements slow and deliberate. When he spoke, the chamber fell silent. The species designated human from the planet designated Earth has requested consideration for provisional membership in the Galactic Council. They may now present their petition. Daniel took a breath and began. He spoke about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests and white-capped mountains, about the billions of people who called it home. He spoke about human history, about the long climb from caves to cities, from stone tools to starships. He spoke about art and music and literature, about the things humans had created simply because they were beautiful. He spoke about science and medicine, about the diseases humanity had conquered and the mysteries it was still trying to solve. He spoke about exploration, about the urge that drove humans to climb every mountain and cross every ocean and reach for every star. He spoke about hope, about the belief that tomorrow could be better than today, about the dream that someday humanity would take its place among the stars as a friend to all peaceful beings. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Then someone laughed. It started with the Kreth delegation. Their leader, General Varth was enormous even by Kreth standards, a mountain of muscle and armor with teeth like knives. His laugh was a harsh, barking sound that echoed through the chamber. Others joined in. The Morvani chittered in their strange, insectoid way. Even some of the Volanti allowed thin smiles to cross their silver faces. Daniel stood there and let the laughter wash over him. He did not flinch. He did not look away. High Arbiter Thiessen raised a hand, and the chamber quieted. "The Council acknowledges humanity's enthusiasm," he said. His voice was flat, almost bored. "However, provisional membership requires a civilization to demonstrate technological, cultural, and military parity with existing members. Earth's evaluation scores place it in the lowest percentile across all metrics." A Morvani delegate rose from his seat. He was smaller than Daniel had expected, but his compound eyes gleamed with intelligence. "The Morvani Collective has studied the human system in detail," the delegate said. "Earth is rich in minerals. Its star provides abundant energy. Its biological diversity is remarkable. We propose that Earth be designated as a protected resource zone under Morvani administration. The human population will be permitted to continue existing under supervision. Their labor will be directed toward productive purposes. Their system's resources will be allocated for the benefit of the Council." Daniel felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "And in exchange for this arrangement, what does humanity receive?" General Vorth stood. His massive frame cast a shadow across the chamber. "You receive the privilege of not being destroyed," he rumbled. "Your species is weak. Your technology is primitive. You have no fleet worthy of the name. You have no weapons that could threaten us. You have nothing to offer and nothing to bargain with. Accept the terms, or we will impose them. Either way, the outcome is the same." The chamber erupted in murmurs of agreement. Daniel could see heads nodding across every tier. Even the smaller species, the ones who had themselves been absorbed into the Council, were nodding. This was how things worked. This was how they had always worked. Daniel looked back at his delegation. Samantha's face was pale. Admiral Grant's jaw was tight. The others looked shell-shocked, as if they were watching a nightmare unfold. This was the moment. Everything they had planned, everything they had prepared, came down to this. Daniel turned back to the assembly and started to laugh. It was not a big laugh. Not a mocking laugh. It was the quiet laugh of a man who has just realized something funny about a situation that everyone else has missed. General Vorth's eyes narrowed. "You find something amusing, human?" Daniel's laughter faded, but the smile remained. "I find it amusing that you think we came here to beg." He stepped away from the podium and walked toward the center of the chamber. It was a violation of protocol. Guards moved to intercept him, but High Arbiter Thiessen raised a hand, curious despite himself. "We knew what we would find here," Daniel said. "We did our research before we came. We read your histories. We studied your patterns. We knew you would dismiss us. We knew you would laugh at us. We knew you would offer us slavery dressed up in fancy words." He turned in a slow circle, addressing the entire assembly. "And we came anyway, because we wanted to give you a chance to do the right thing, a chance to welcome a new species into your community as equals, a chance to prove that the Galactic Council stands for something more than power and profit." His voice hardened. "You failed that test." The murmurs grew louder. No petitioner had ever spoken like this. No one addressed the assembly this way. "You'd call us primitive," Daniel continued. "But 200 years ago, we could not even leave our own atmosphere. In 2 centuries, we went from horses and candles to nuclear power and space travel. In 2 centuries, we accomplished what took most of your species 2,000 years. Or longer." He pointed at General Vorth. You call us weak. But you have read our history. You know what humans do when they are cornered. You know about our wars, our revolutions, our rebellions. You know that we do not surrender. We do not give up. We fight, and we fight, and we keep fighting until we win or until there is nothing left of us. His voice rose. You think you can conquer Earth? Try it. We have spent our entire history fighting each other. We are very good at it. And if you come for us, we will show you exactly how good. The chamber was in chaos now. Delegates shouting, guards moving, alarms flashing. But Daniel was not finished. You want our resources? Come and take them. But know this. For every ship you send, we will destroy 2. For every soldier you land, we will kill 3. For every city you burn, we will build 10 more. We are humans. We do not kneel. We do not break. We endure. He turned to face High Arbiter Thiessen directly. This is not a petition anymore. This is a warning. Earth is not a resource zone. Earth is not a protectorate. Earth is our home. And we will defend it to the last breath of the last human. He walked back to his delegation. We are leaving now. When the Council is ready to speak to us as equals, it knows where to find us. Together, the human delegation walked toward the exit. The doors opened before them. Behind them, the Grand Assembly had erupted into chaos. Thousands of voices shouting in confusion and disbelief. Just before the doors closed, Daniel looked back one more time. The next move is yours, he said, and then he was gone. The corridor outside the assembly chamber was empty. The human delegation moved quickly, their footsteps echoing on the strange warm stone. No one spoke. They did not need to. They all knew what they had just done. Corvith was waiting for them at the junction that led to the docking bay. His silver face was unreadable, but something in his posture had changed. He was looking at them differently now. That was unprecedented, he said. Good, Daniel replied without breaking stride. You understand what will happen now. The Council will vote on your classification. After that display, the vote will be unanimous. You will be designated as hostile. Your system will be marked for military action. Let them vote. Let them send their ships. We will be ready. Corvus fell into step beside them. You are bluffing. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your fleet is insignificant. You cannot win a war against the Council. Admiral Grant spoke for the first time since leaving the chamber. Maybe not. But we can make it expensive. We can make it hurt. And that is something the Council is not used to. They reached the docking bay. The Endeavour sat where they had left it, ugly and solid and wonderfully human. The crew rushed aboard and began pre-flight checks. In minutes, they were ready to leave. But as the engines warmed up, a signal came through the communication system. It was Corvith, speaking from the bay outside. Wait. Daniel paused at the airlock. What is it? I have served the Council for 300 years. I have watched dozens of species petition for membership. I have seen them beg and plead and bargain. I have seen them accept whatever terms were offered because they thought they had no choice. I have never seen what you just did. Is there a point to this? Corvith was silent for a long moment. There are others who feel as I do. Others who have grown tired of the Council's arrogance. Others who remember what the Council was supposed to be before the Kreth turned it into a protection racket and the Morvani turned it into a marketplace. Are you offering to help us? I am offering to remember. When the time comes, I will remember that humanity chose defiance over submission. That may matter someday. The airlock began to close. Thank you, Corvith, for whatever it is worth. Safe travels, Ambassador, and good luck. You will need it. The Endeavour launched without incident. No ships pursued them. No weapons fired. The Council, it seemed, was too shocked to react. The journey home took 3 weeks, just like the journey out. But the mood on the ship was very different. On the way to the Citadel, there had been hope and excitement and nervous anticipation. On the way back, there was only grim determination. Daniel spent most of his time in the communication room, recording messages for Earth. He told them everything. The Citadel, the Council, the Assembly, the ultimatum, the walkout. He told them what was coming and what they needed to do. "We may have months," he said in one message. "We may have years. We may have days. We do not know. But we need to prepare as if the attack could come tomorrow. Every nation, every government, every person on Earth needs to understand. This is not a drill. This is not a test. This is survival." Samantha sat with him after he finished recording. "Do you think they will listen? They do not have a choice. When people face extinction, they find ways to work together. It is one of the best things about our species. And one of the worst things is how long it takes us to get there." Daniel nodded. "True, but we got there. That is what matters." The Endeavour arrived back in Earth orbit on a Thursday morning. By Friday afternoon, the world had changed. The United Nations held an emergency session. For the first time in history, every nation on Earth agreed to a unified defense plan. Old enemies shook hands. Old rivalries were set aside. The choice was simple: work together or die separately. Factories that had been building cars and phones and appliances were converted to produce weapons and spacecraft and defense systems. Scientists who had been working on separate projects were brought together to share their knowledge. Every resource, every mind, every hand was devoted to a single purpose. Daniel was named Supreme Commander of Earth Defense. It was a title he had never wanted and had never sought. But when the leaders of the world asked him to take it, he could not refuse. He had started this. He would see it through. Months passed. The expected attack did not come. Intelligence suggested that the Council was still arguing about what to do. Some factions wanted immediate military action. Others counseled caution. The humans had shown themselves to be unpredictable, and unpredictability made the older species nervous. Admiral Grant used the time well. New ships were launched every week. Orbital defense platforms were positioned around Earth and the other planets. Mining operations in the asteroid belt provided raw materials for weapons and armor. The fleet grew from a handful of research vessels to a genuine fighting force. Samantha worked on communications. She studied every scrap of data they had brought back from the Citadel, looking for weaknesses in the Council systems. She found patterns in their transmissions, vulnerabilities in their networks. If war came, humanity would not fight blind, and Daniel traveled. He visited every continent, every major city, every military installation. He spoke to soldiers and scientists and ordinary people. He told them what they were fighting for. He told them why it mattered. He told them that they were not alone. "The galaxy thinks we are small," he would say. "They think we are weak. They think we will fold at the first sign of pressure. But they have never faced a species like us. They have never faced 8 billion people who have decided together that they will not give up, that they will not surrender, that they will fight for their home, their families, their future. Let them come. Let them see what humans are made of." The crowds cheered. The soldiers saluted. The scientists went back to their labs with renewed purpose. 1 year after the walkout, Earth was a different planet. Not a collection of squabbling nations, but a unified civilization with a single goal. Not a primitive backwater, but a fortress bristling with defenses. And still the Council did not attack. "They are afraid," Admiral Grant said during a strategy meeting. "They expected us to collapse. They expected internal conflicts, political breakdowns, economic chaos. Instead, we got stronger. That was not in their calculations. They will still come eventually, Daniel said. We embarrassed them. The Kreth especially will not let that stand. Then we keep building. We keep preparing. And when they come, we will be ready. Daniel looked out the window at the blue planet below. His home. His responsibility. Yes, he said. We will be ready. The message came 2 years after the walkout. It arrived on a secure channel, encrypted in a way that human computers could barely understand. But Samantha cracked it within hours. It is from Corvith, she told Daniel. He wants to meet. They rendezvoused at the edge of the solar system, far from any prying eyes. Corvith came alone in a small diplomatic shuttle. He looked different than Daniel remembered. Tired, worried, but also something else. Hopeful. The council is fracturing, Corvith said as soon as he was aboard the Endeavor. Your walkout started something that no one expected. Other species are asking questions. They are looking at humanity and wondering if they made a mistake by accepting the terms they were given. Daniel leaned forward. What kind of questions? Questions about fairness. Questions about representation. Questions about whether the council serves its members or just its masters. Questions that have not been asked in 10,000 years. He pulled out a data crystal, the same kind he had used before. 17 species have secretly contacted Earth in the past 6 months. They want to establish independent diplomatic relations outside the council's authority. They are not ready to break away entirely, but they want options. They want to know that if things change, there is somewhere else they can go. Daniel took the crystal. Why are you helping us, Corvith? You have served the council your whole life. The old Volanti was quiet for a long moment. Because I remember what the council was supposed to be. A community of equals, working together for the good of all. Not an empire ruled by fear and greed. When you stood before the assembly and refused to kneel, you reminded me of that. You reminded a lot of us. So what happens now? Now you have a choice. You can stay isolated, build your defenses, and wait for the attack that may or may not come. Or you can reach out to those 17 species and start building something new. An alternative to the council. A place where species are judged by their character, not their power. Admiral Grant had been listening in silence. Now he spoke. If we do that, the council will see it as a direct threat. The Kreth will push for immediate war. Yes, but the Kreth do not have the votes they once did. The balance is shifting. Every month that passes without an attack makes the hardliners look foolish. Every signal of support from other species makes humanity look less like a target and more like a partner. Daniel thought about it. The safe choice was to stay hidden, to keep building, to prepare for a war that might never come. But the safe choice was not always the right choice. We will reach out, he said. Carefully, slowly, but we will reach out. Corvith nodded. Good. I was hoping you would say that. The next 2 years were a delicate dance of diplomacy and preparation. Daniel traveled to secret meetings on distant stations and hidden moons. He met representatives from species he had never heard of. Beings with strange bodies and stranger minds. All of them united by a single desire, to be free from the council's control. Some were warriors who respected humanity's defiance. Some were traders who saw opportunity in new markets. Some were scholars who were curious about a species that had risen so quickly from nothing. Some were idealists who dreamed of a better galaxy. All of them were willing to take a risk. The alliance grew slowly, one handshake at a time. It had no formal structure, no official name, no headquarters. It was just a network of connections, a web of trust built on a simple principle. Treat each other as equals. And maybe we can build something better than what we have. The council watched and worried. General Vorath argued for preemptive strikes, but his support had eroded. The Morvani calculated the costs of war and decided they were too high. The Volanthi bureaucracy simply could not process a situation that did not fit their procedures. In the end, the council did nothing, which was exactly what Daniel had hoped for. 4 years after the walkout, the first formal treaty was signed. It was a small thing, a trade agreement between Earth and a species called the Thalani, who had been council members for 3,000 years, but had never been treated as anything more than servants. The goods exchanged were minimal. The symbolic value was enormous. Other treaties followed. Defense pacts, scientific partnerships, cultural exchanges. Each one was a thread in a web that grew stronger by the day. Admiral Grant retired that year, satisfied that he had done his part. Samantha was appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the emerging coalition, as the new alliance had come to be called. She was good at it. Better than Daniel, if he was honest. And Daniel himself stepped back from public life. He had done what he set out to do. He had spoken for humanity, and humanity had listened. Now it was time to let others take the lead. He was 70 years old when the Galactic Council finally acknowledged the emerging coalition as a legitimate power. It was a grudging acknowledgement, full of conditions and qualifications, but it was acknowledgement nonetheless. The galaxy had changed. The old order was crumbling. Something new was being born. Daniel watched the announcement from his home in Colorado. He was sitting on his porch, looking up at the stars, when his granddaughter came out to join him. "They are talking about you on the news," she said. "They are calling you the father of the coalition." Daniel smiled. "That is generous of them. A lot of people built the coalition. I just got things started." "Is it true that you laughed at the Galactic Council?" "It is true. Were you scared?" Daniel thought about the question. He thought about the Grand Assembly, thousands of alien faces staring down at him. He thought about the walkout, the long journey home, the years of preparation and diplomacy and uncertainty. He thought about all the moments when everything could have gone wrong. "Yes," he said. "I was terrified. But sometimes you have to be scared and do the thing anyway. Sometimes that is the only way to change anything." His granddaughter nodded slowly. "Do you think there will be war?" "Maybe. Probably. Someday. But not today. And maybe by the time it comes, we will be strong enough to win. Or smart enough to avoid it." She looked up at the stars. "It is strange to think that there are people up there. Aliens, different species. A whole galaxy full of them." "It is strange," Daniel agreed. "But it is also wonderful. All those different kinds of life, all those different ways of being. And now we are part of it. Not as subjects or resources, but as partners. As equals. Because you refuse to kneel. Because we refuse to kneel. All of us. Every person on Earth who decided that our freedom was worth fighting for. That our dignity mattered. That we would not be bullied into submission by anyone, no matter how powerful." He put his arm around his granddaughter and looked up at the stars. "The galaxy is vast," he said, "and it is full of wonders we have not even imagined yet. Your generation will see things that mine never dreamed of. You will go places and meet beings and do things that no human has ever done before. Are you jealous?" Daniel laughed. "A little. But mostly I am excited for you. The future belongs to you now. Make it a good one." They sat there together for a long time, grandfather and granddaughter, watching the stars wheel overhead. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was still plotting. Somewhere out there, the emerging coalition was still growing. Somewhere out there, 1,000 different species were looking at the tiny blue planet called Earth and wondering how such a small, young, insignificant species had managed to change everything. The answer was simple. They had refused to give up. They had refused to surrender. They had refused to accept that their place in the galaxy was determined by anyone but themselves. They were human. And that, in the end, was enough.